What I wanted to ask you now is to describe the best you can Galactic-Human 2.0.
Yes. So let me elaborate. As we are finally, after eons of time, entering into a new dawn of light, which has so many names. We can call it the new era, the golden age of humankind, the new dawn of light. And guess what? It is not only on Earth. It is a cosmic, galactic, multiverses advancement. It's an ascension that happens through all life in the multiverses. So on Earth, as we are here, many who are born different to make a difference know or don't know that they carry within their DNA spectrum very rare jewel DNA from the galaxies. It's an embodiment, a spectrum of varieties of divine origins, many different origins, not only divine, but also not that divine, for one reason, to transform, metamorphosis, and bring the new dawn of the galactic human embodiment, which is the spectrum of these galaxies, divine races in a human form, so that with all these packed galactic abilities, wisdom, we can all of us reinvent new societies, new industries, new art of living that has more divine and galactic wisdom on this earth and beyond.
So how does somebody activate the DNA such that they start becoming the Galactic-Human 2.0?
The first stage is to clear all form of hindrances. Many people are already informed about the matrix. The matrix is a dark, very restrictive arena where freedom is oppressed. All form of freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of liberty, freedom of everything. So this matrix, we need to break free from it. I am so blessed and privileged to be one of the being who broke free from the matrix in all aspects. So these invisible restrictions, whether it is a carried over from the bloodline, earthly bloodline, but also galactic bloodline, this needs to be cleared. And many light beings in a human form also have a history, and they know about it, called the persecuted syndrome. This persecution has been on Earth since eons of time, and also on other planets. Consequently, that imprint is very strong, which brings scarcity consciousness, fear to be seen, fear to be visible, fear to express all spectrum of creation. So, and lack as well. What about lack? How many can say, I am financially in abundance? This is also an imprint that is very strong. So in 2 words, any form of suffering, adversity, hindrances known to humankind needs to be cleared permanently. And for that, dismantling the root cause is needed. Because when this stage is done, the DNA don't even need activation. This is quite a belief for me. The DNA is like a flower that can blossom naturally when it doesn't have that oppression. So we need to remove any oppression, and then the DNA flower can blossom effortlessly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So there's basically, just to summarize, there's no particular activation protocols that you use. The key thing is for a client to clear and clear and clear, and they'll reach some critical mass of clearing where the DNA will begin to self-actualize, so to speak, right?
Yes, naturally, effortlessly. It's like if you remove a locker, a padlock, it opens. That simple. So we need to remove all these layers that hindrance who you truly are, and then the rest becomes naturally. It unfolds naturally. And this is the beauty of it. So definitely this stage has to be done. And I know that most light beings have been doing shadow work, healing work, trauma work, programs for success over and over again. I know that. I know. And I have done that too. But I can guarantee you, gone are the days of endless, repetitive sessions of all form of transformation with no concrete, groundbreaking breakthroughs. This is my promise to you. The work that is now available through this ancient galactic past and future technology and wisdom works at light speed. In 1 hour session, most people break through from a lot. By the way, Bobby, would you like to share your experience? Some, please.
Well, my experience actually goes back decades. Very drawn to spiritual practices. I worked with a variety of spiritual practices over the decades, was also very drawn to what I would call New Age writers like Madame Blavatsky and Annie Besant and Alice Bailey, and let's call them the neo-theosophical groups,
Mm-hmm.
drawn to shamanism. And I think what I was really after across all those years, whether I was dealing with ascended masters, whether I was dealing with very deep esoteric Christian practices, Zen Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism, was to get in touch with my spirit and to expand, to experience some kind of expanded state of consciousness or structure of consciousness. And that, all of that became, it shifted around 2018 for me. In 2018, at that point in time, for about 6, 7 years, I'd already been thinking that there were what you call a lot of hindrances. And I understood the need for shadow work. I understood the need to heal trauma. But by 2018, it just became more and more important to me to purify. And I really didn't know why, but purification or clearing became the thematic of what I would call my spiritual practice. It was all about clearing. And I felt like I needed to heal or clear shadow. That then expanded into family systems, clearing that, uh, patrilineal and matrilineal DNA. I then became aware that the ancestral carried over patterns needed to be cleared. I became familiar then that there were concepts like soul fragmentation, that I needed to find practitioners that could help retrieve soul fragmentations or spirit fragmentations so I could experience wholeness on that level. I became aware of probably 20, 30 years ago about star families, but it didn't
Mm.
occur to me till even recently. And this is now late September of 2024, but it didn't even occur to me till the last couple of years that there was carried over trauma patterns from star families. So it
Yes.
just was kind of formidable. And so I worked with 30 different practitioners, many of which specialized in one, maybe two of those particular thematics. And so I was on a quest to keep finding practitioners who had the ability to really clear out, what I felt were underlying issues that I felt in my own psyche, but and it was frustrating to say the least. You book a lot of 1 hour sessions or 2 hour sessions. You are on a lot of Zoom calls and groups, and you keep trying to clear, clear, clear. And then I kind of inadvertently ran across you, and we texted a bit, and I felt like, yeah, I'll book a session. So I booked a session, and then you being the badass that you are, that session lasted 5 hours. And so you just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and into at the time, what I conceptualized was you were going into the deepest parts of my shadow, or the darkness within me, which is something I really wanted to address. So you were identifying it a lot with the Matrix, and of course I was familiar with the Matrix because I really loved the movie The Matrix when it came out in 1999. But to actually begin to experience the extent of it within myself was mind blowing. And so after 5 hours, if you recall, I was gobsmacked, and I just said, what the fuck just happened? Because in those 5 hours, I felt you had addressed more fundamental issues within me, um, that many of which I didn't even know existed. So, you were addressing the ones I thought I knew existed, and you were doing it quite beautifully and remarkably. And it was an extraordinarily dramatic session because operate the way you actually remove the dark energies is very dramatic. It's actually very cinematic, very theatrical. And so it was kind of amazing to feel these dark layers within me being lifted off. And
Hmm.
many of them I had normalized them. I just thought they
Yes.
were me. I thought they were Bobby. So to feel them being pulled away, to be removed, to be released was really an extraordinary experience. And that got me very curious about, well, what is this matrix? How did it come about? I became very intrigued by that particular question, but I was also kind of stunned that we have 8 billion humans on the planet, and not to count the animals, the pets that we all have, or the wild animals, but everything's inundated and saturated with the matrix. And that was really staggering to me, that how much how much of what we do call shadow, or what we call carried over ancestral patterns, are all part of the matrix. It's all part of this vast, complex enslavement system that's just sucking our energy. And, the deeper then, the more we talk, then the more I realize that everything was kind of staged by the matrix. That, um, yeah, so I just felt like it was a major blessing to discover your work. I had no expectation for what would happen. And that's been now almost 3 months. And it's just extraordinary the extent of the changes I've gone through as a result of experiencing it.
I'm so pleased. And you know, Bobby, your story and what you brought on the table when I had to do the session, which myself, I was not expecting to do 5 hours. Obviously, we were supposed to do 1 hour, but it was so extreme, so profound, so symbolic, because you were one of those amazing galactic who made a promise that one day you will come back. One day you will help them to ascend. One day you will assist whatever was the promise, as many galactic did. And the fact is, many civilizations in the galaxies have lost connection with their creation, with their divine spirit, and then merged with artificial intelligence sentient from certain dark race in galaxies. Consequently, they became cyborg, metaverse, transhumanized, transalienized, transanimalized, etc., etc. And they crave to reconnect with their divine beingness because they lost connection with sustainability. And you made that promise amongst many galactic beings. So what came that day was very heavy for me to lift and unravel. I needed to find all the root cause with digital precision. And after a few hours, when I found it stopped, that heaviness, that oppression, that whatever it was stopped. And we could, through you, beyond you, assist many different races who now reconnected with their divinity, with their spirit, and no longer need to be a predator. We need to understand that the matrix has been created as a harvesting arena. They survive. When you lose connection with your divine spirit, you lose sustainability. We, as divine being in a human form, we have all our organs that function naturally without us directing it, whether it is the breath, the blood, the lymph, the digestive tract, and you name it. It is such a perfect cosmic orchestration that runs by itself because there is the life force, because there is a divine spirit orchestrating all this. They have lost that. So they need to harvest. They need to steal and siphon. This is why I care to speak about that with you, Bobby, because one of the reasons why my work is so radical, one of the reasons the metamorphosis and the breaking the matrix is so rapid for the clientele, it's because I assist those, I call them all dark forces interferences, all malevolent alien. I love to call them lost demonic puppies, because this is exactly what they are. Yes, they are gigantic. Yes, they can be scary. They are powerful. But at the end of the day, they are lost. And when you speak with them with compassion and you make them understand that you have a solution for their original root cause problem, that you can help them to reconnect with their divine spirit that they have lost, they become sustainable. They will not become dependent. They don't need to steal, harm, siphon, or whatsoever. I can tell you that something quite magical take place. When you see such gigantic, 8-foot tall, powerful, nefarious galactic crying, it's a moment that I cannot forget. And I have experienced that over and over again. So by tracking the root cause of their problem, I realized that if I help them to reconnect with what they have lost eons ago, they naturally become sustainable. They naturally don't need anymore, whether it is a matrix, whether it is becoming a persecutor or a predator. They don't need that. It fades away instantly. And this is the power and the foundation of the work that brings solution in such radical and rapid results. which you have experienced because you were there listening to everything I was saying, and you heard me taking care of the root cause of their problem, of all the enemies that you have ever had, all the persecutor stopped persecuting because they had a new trajectory that is very beautiful.
Yeah,
And
and I thought when, I mean, at the time when I booked this session, I was aware enough to know that I had, let's call them soul histories or incarnations that went back millions and millions and perhaps billions of years. So I wasn't quite aware of how much I needed to clean out. And that was how I framed it. I just felt like I needed to clean out a lot. I needed to come to terms with my dark side, and I'd already come to terms with it intellectually, at least. It was just kind of logical to me. Well, if I've incarnated millions of times on this planet and other planets and inhabited all these bodies or incarnated in all these bodies, surely I must have participated to even help design the matrix or to build the matrix. And so I wanted to come to terms within myself with those particular energies. And I didn't know what come to terms meant. The words I was using was clearing at the time, and I knew I wanted to come to terms because I felt my path was to penetrate these parts of me where the word shadow doesn't even begin to describe it. I don't know if you've ever read or watched the movie The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe, or read the book, but in that book, um, basically these kids are in this old house. They've left London to flee the bombing of London, and they discover a wardrobe, uh, and one of them, I think it's the girl, enters the wardrobe, and the wardrobe has no back, and she goes into a land called Narnia. And so my experience was very similar. It was like, well, my psyche is this large house, and I've lived in it forever. And in the basement, there's a wardrobe, and it's where my father's army jackets are kept, and my mother's wedding dress, and other things like that. And it smells like mothballs and cedar. And
Mhm.
it's part of the basement that I just never really deal with. And I was calling that my shadow. So, you know, here I open up the wardrobe in this sense of heroism that I'm going to deal with my shadow. And I find the wardrobe has no back. And you're my guide. And what it's not Narnia, it's the Matrix. I'm now
Yeah.
in this whole world, this vast multiverse upon multiverse that's the Matrix. And that it's like my shadow is a small just extension of that. And I knew I was doing the work that my parents didn't do, the cleansing work,
Mhm.
deep detoxifying work my grandparents didn't do. No one in my family lineages, and I'd gotten to the point where I understood that part of my contract for being here was to clean up, all the DNA, so to speak, all that
Yeah.
carried over programming attached to the DNA. But I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went. And that's why after 5 hours, I just said, what the fuck just happened? Because it was a complete and total multi rabbit hole within rabbit holes within rabbit holes experience. And it wasn't frightening because I felt really relieved that I had finally found someone who knew how to navigate this vast part of us, who not only was kind of liberating me, but the whole program, you at the same time, the dark itself was getting liberated. And
Yes.
I remember a point where I realized wow, I thought maybe the light in me had guided me to have this experience so I could then embody more light. And then I had this revelation. No, it's not just the light in me that guided me to do this. It was the dark in me.
Bravo.
I had to be
Thank you for
liberated.
saying that. Thank you for
So,
saying that.
so it it was a revelation that clients come to you, they'll come to you consciously because they're suffering, and they'll bring their various and sundry sufferings to you. And the interpretation would be that, well, I just want my suffering healed. But to imagine that it's the dark in them that's creating the suffering that wants to be liberated, and the dark knows how to find you, and so the clients are guided to you, was it was just one more revelation after another of things I'd never even considered or imagined before. So
Thank
I
you for saying that.
just to summarize it, I mean, people want to be liberated. They want, they don't want their pets to be suffering. They don't want their anyone, family members to be suffering. Some don't want humanity to be suffering. And so they tend to come believing they're good people, and it's the light part of them that are guiding so they can embody in more light. But it is mind-blowing the way you work, that because you're liberating the dark, the
Yes.
matrix is dissolving, the dark that has saturated this planet for what, hundreds of millions of years, I don't know, is now at a stage where it itself is ready to be liberated. It itself is tired of the game it's been playing. It's tired of this kind of treadmill that it is on, and it wants to be liberated, and it's even desperate to be liberated. So that's a very strange concept to get your head around, but I think that's actually what's happening here.
I would love to elaborate on that. And I'm so happy that you tracked that with your galactic abilities and discovered this very unique truth. Because yes, the dark forces are advanced in technology, which means they have more abilities. They have more technology, and they can see in the invisible realm more than a human at this time, due to the fact that most humans are disconnected from their galactic abilities. Consequently, they have been able to see in the invisible realm stuff that takes place. And when the work I do, which took me obviously time to develop, practice, track, and refine until becoming what it is today, and I'm still evolving every single second of my day, they could see in the spirit realm that someone was doing some particular work. When you see a firework in the sky, you say, whoa, something is happening over there. Because the work that is happening when I do whatever I do, it's visible in the spirit realm. So in the spirit realm, they started approaching what I was doing due to the amplitude of the lightning, if I can say, that was taking place at that time. And they started coming to me. And when they saw the formula, the way I was approaching my work, the compassion, if I can say, that I had for these lost malevolent puppies, they just realized that they preferred to come out of the matrix through this compassionate formula versus being terminated, destroyed, exploded, or whatsoever. Consequently, they have started placing a divine strategy with their malevolent, where they keep their dignity intact
Oh,
and
no,
have an outcome.
you
I
broke
broke
up a
up.
little bit there. What?
Okay, my apology. I think the phone. Let me rephrase that. So I don't know where it got. Do you remember where I got disconnected?
Yeah, you were using the phrase divine strategy or as part of a divine
Okay.
something.
So when they have been observing my work in the spirit realm, from what I understood, from what they expressed to me, they decided, you know what? The matrix is about to end. The dark age is about to be finished. The golden era is starting. If we don't come out with dignity, if we don't reconnect with who we truly are originally, we're going to cease to exist. And no life form, even a parasite, wants to die. Everything has a natural instinct to upgrade, to ascend, even a parasite. It is an instinct program within. Consequently, they have started elaborating, I call it a divine strategy, through their malevolent puppy brain. And they said, you know what? I like her. I like Che. She's taking care of us. She's reconnecting us with what we have lost eons ago. This is the best for us versus ceasing to exist or versus being destroyed, because this is part of what would have happened if they don't take action. Now, I feel and I know that they have started inspiring the people to come towards my work, because what I'm observing, Bobby, every single one that comes into this type of session, whether it is you or other amazing galactic, it's nearly never about them. Yes, they come with a suffering and a lot of suffering, a lot of hindrances. And to contribute in freeing them by showing them how to be freed, I observe that every single time I need to go into the galaxies, I need to help those races that is attached to their DNA, or the promise that they made, or the enemy, the predator, the persecutor of these people throughout time and space. When I take care of them over there, they're suffering in the now. Stop. Period. So when you have this through repetition, evidence after evidence, I think the message is clear. They are freeing powers of the dark in the galaxies, powers of the dark on Earth, and when they get freed, the client receives an instant liberation. I'm observing it through repetition, and people who come to me, they are amazing, like galactic of the galactic, wayshowers, pioneers, problem solvers, innovator, leaders of tomorrow. Whatever is their talent, whatever is their project, I am in awe to listen to what they have to offer. So in 2 words, we are freeing the power of the dark from their looping, because they loop too. And while they get freed, all of us can start rebuilding the new earth, the golden age of humankind on Earth, and the golden age of the multiverses.
Well, that's beautiful. I think we can. Why don't we stop here? We can always, we'll always talk more, but I think this was a really good conversation.
Yes, I love it. Now let me finalize this little conversation. And yes, we will be doing a lot of that so that people get informed that ancient and future galactic solutions are now available for radical metamorphosis. Now, how to get started? Well, it depends on where you are at. It depends on the severity of your requirement. Here, at this time, there is multiple solution. The ideal, I'm talking about the ideal, is book a private session with me. If you can, jump on board and book a private session so that we can do a profound, dedicated, badass, kick-ass, and solve whatever needs to be solved. This is one. If this option is not possible for varieties of reasons, there is another solution that I am birthing with all my love, which is the naissance of a monthly subscription, which means that there is going to be a group where we gather all of us together amongst a like-hearted individuals who all are starseed, ancient one, galactic. So this Omniversity Galactic-Human 2.0 portal will be available on multiple platforms so that we can address every layer until last drop, because all of us are now called into responding to the call of life, which is rebuilding the new earth, rebuilding divine industries, rebuilding divine communities, rebuilding everything from scratch to create a paradise on this earth, an oasis. So we need to first break free from whatever, and then get trained, get empowered, learn how to command the spirit, learn to have dominion over the creation, and navigate life lit up unstoppable. Those who can take a program, please jump on board. So as you see, we have multiple avenues so that everybody receive, and we all get empowered together. So all the descriptions will be available. Just find and you will find everything available for you. But start somewhere. Enough is enough. Period. I'm available.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. We meet soon again.
We shall.
Yes.